If you're looking to build a new gaming PC but aren't quite sure where to start, I've got just the video for you. As in this one, I'll be walking through the very best builds you can assemble right now for a range of different budgets. Whether it's a more entry-level $700 system, mid-range $1,000 build, or higher-end $1,500 gaming PC, this video is hopefully going to give you an idea of what's achievable, walk you guys through the kind of parts that I recommend, and the components I think you should avoid. So without any further ado, let's dive into it. My UK viewers can now save big with Asus's latest ProArt cashback campaign. Receive up to £626 of cashback when you buy an eligible ProArt product or custom PC powered by Asus. The promotion period runs until the 21st of May, so be quick and head to the link below to see the full list of eligible monitors, motherboards, coolers, peripherals, and more, and to buy from our participating retailer. Upgrade your rig with ProArt and save big at the first link in the description below. Now, as with all of these videos, I'll be using Newegg today to pick the parts for these systems. If you'd like to learn how to assemble any of these builds or put them together for yourself, you can find our other PC build videos in the cards section now. Now, I'm going to start things off with our entry-level $700 build, and I always try and segment around about half of the budget to the CPU and GPU combo. Now, looking at that entry-level 1080p space, I think we've got two options as far as GPUs are concerned. Those two options specifically are the Intel Arc A750 and RX 6600. This is just the starting point, so if I have the money to upgrade them later, I will, but I think these two make the most sense. The A750's got marginally more performance in some games, but is more inconsistent than the 6600. So the 6600 is what I'm going to go for. 8 gigs of VRAM, decent rasterization performance, but it isn't going to set the world on fire. Now, as far as CPUs go, we've got again a couple of options to pick from here. Naturally, AMD's Ryzen 5 5600X is probably one of the chips I would consider the most closely. This can be found for around about $160. The non-X derivative, though, is perhaps an even better value option. That comes in at $126. Now, if you'd like to see UK or other region pricing, there will be international Amazon links down below, which will give you that information. This is an older gen CPU, meaning we can of course get support for those older gen B550 motherboards, something that's again going to save you quite a lot of money. Here you need to decide what compromises you want to make. A board like this ASRock board makes a lot of sense. It's micro ATX, more compact. However, if we dive in and look at it in a bit more detail, you'll find that we've only got one USB Type-C port and we don't have any Wi-Fi support as standard. With that being said though, its really competitive price makes it the best selling option on Newegg right now, and you'll have to spend another $10 for this board here from Asus that has Wi-Fi, while it's another $20 for this MSI Pro B550A. Now, if you don't need Wi-Fi, you've got wide Ethernet connection, I would go for this ASRock board at $89. This $99 Asus board with Wi-Fi though is a great upgrade. So really, I'll leave both below. I'm going to try and eke out as much money as possible from our budget and go for that B550 board in this instance. With the CPU, motherboard, and graphics card all ticked off, the next thing to do is to find some RAM. Now, ideally, we want 32 gigabytes of DDR4, but 16 gigs will be sufficient if it's all the budget today allows. Again, we want to look at some of those best-selling options, see what it is people are buying, because it tends to be a pretty sensible choice. You can see here we're looking at a base of $54, but that's actually for a 32 gigabyte kit. The 16 gigabyte kits are coming in at around about $34, $35. Now, as much as this kit doesn't have any flashy RGB and only clocks in at 3200 megahertz, I'd prefer 36. I think for now it's going to be a pretty good option. 32 gigs of RAM is the main thing for this build. That's going to give it, I don't want to say future-proofing, but enough memory now and at least a bit into the future. When it comes to storage, I'm a massive fan of Crucial's P3 Plus. So at least historically, pricing-wise, it's been very competitive, but it looks like its popularity has caused its cost to shoot up a bit. And we're seeing this across the board with NVMe drives right now. The pricing is so up and down and really quite inconsistent. A good second option could be this Team Group kit. Now, this is their MP44L, and while it's by no means the fastest NVMe drive in the world, it is still Gen 4 and comes in at $65. So again, that's going to do us well. As far as power supplies go, I know we want a 650 80 plus bronze unit. This build does not consume a lot of power, so 650 is going to be absolutely fine. As things stand, MSI are an unlikely contender at just $59 with their A650BN. And I'm seeing more and more MSI units be genuinely really good value. You can see here the 750 watt one is $85. Well, there's also a 551 for just $49. I think 650 is going to give us that bit more future-proofing though, and for me, that's important. All that then leaves us with is a case, and as far as budget goes, we've got $120 to make it happen. Again, preferably less. One of my favourite cases at this price point has to be Deepcool CH370. Now, it's by no means the most extraordinary chassis out there. However, at $65, you can even save more with the promo code whatever that says, so we'll copy that to our clipboard, you can see it makes a lot of sense and it gives us a bit more money to spend on those other components. Looking at the cart then, with the case into place, we're standing at around about $645. Where would I target this extra $50? To be honest with you, I'd probably say the GPU. Yes, a motherboard upgrade would be nice, but we have more options when it comes to the graphics card. Now straight away, the card that springs to mind for me is the RTX 3060. That's recently been available for around that $269 price point. Let's sort by lowest price, as that's going to allow us to really find the cheapest option. You can see here, the MSI Ventus card comes in at $259, and if we add this to the cart, if my math serves me correctly, we should be just about, I was going to say in budget, slightly over budget, $716. So if you want to keep this under budget, go for the 6600. I personally think the 3060 makes the better build. As I say, I'll leave all the parts of this fairly budget-oriented build down below. A system that's going to achieve strong performance at 1080p, and while it cuts costs with areas like the motherboard, the SSD and the RAM, which are undoubtedly much lower end, is still going to provide great value for money. If you want to step things up though to that $1,000 budget, you're going to want to remove all the items from the cart, as this build is based on an older platform that a higher end build just doesn't need to rely on when it comes to cost saving. Now in this higher end build, I'm going to start again with the CPU. The Ryzen 7600 I think would be my favourite option. You can see as things stand, that comes in at $189, but it's worth of course comparing this to some of the other choices out there too. Intel's 12400F is probably the next best bet when it comes to pricing, and you can see here this is rocking in at around about $129. Now the 12400F is probably the better value pick, but the Ryzen AM5 architecture is so much more future-proof. You're talking the ability to upgrade to next-gen CPUs that aren't even out yet, whereas with Intel, the platform's just kind of dead. It's for that reason that I'm going to opt to spend that bit more money. And you guys might not agree with that approach. It's definitely somewhere where an extra $50 has been spent to create what I would class as a more well-rounded build. Now I know that because we're going Ryzen, we need DDR5 memory. So 32GB of DDR5 is my next port of call. When it comes to memory, we want a decent latency. So we want to make sure that we filter down to just those better latency modules. 31 to 40 is a good range, but I think we want to stick to kits with a 32, 34 or 36 CAS latency. We also want a 32GB kit with two 16GB modules. That's going to ensure that we get dual channel performance, something which is going to provide more bandwidth and a much better gaming experience. Now, best selling kits at this price point, Corsair Vengeance at 109, that's a 6000 MHz kit with a CAS latency of 36, so that's pretty perfect. We may be able to save some more money though, and again here you can see Team Group being hyper competitive. This is their T-Force Vulcan. If you're not bothered about RGB or great aesthetics, this is what I would go for. And I think again, $1,000 build, we need to compromise somewhere. I'd rather save money on the memory and get a more modern, up-to-date CPU. Now with this being Ryzen, we want ideally a B650 motherboard. B650 is AMD's mid-range chipset. It's more high-end than the A620 lineup, but less high-end than the X670 range. Now as far as B650 motherboards goes, again there's a lot of options here. We featured quite a few on the website and the YouTube channel, and there's some fantastic budget options to pick from. This B650M Pro RS from ASRock is the #1 bestseller on Newegg, and we've reviewed this board. Really like it. You can see other brands are closing in. MSI's board comes in at 169. Asus have got a board at 229, but you can see here again, MSI B650S down for just $139. That's $10 cheaper than the best-selling ASRock board. Now, it has got Wi-Fi as well, so this is all seeming a bit too good to be true. Wi-Fi 6E included with those antennas, so you really can get rocking straight away. The only sacrifices you're going to make are when it comes to PCI generation. We get PCI Gen 4 support on this board, but no Gen 5. Other nice features to have are lacking, like a built-in rear I/O shield, but still get plenty of high-speed USB 3 ports on the front and rear panel. So you know what? $139 MSI, that's going straight in my basket. Now one component I didn't include in the last build was a dedicated CPU cooler, and that's because the lower end Ryzen chips tend to come with a stock cooler included as standard. Now it isn't fantastic, but for the 7600 and the 5600 in the last build, you're going to be absolutely fine. And while I'd really love to add something like an AG400 in from Deepcool or a unit from Vetro or Johnsbro, especially when it's coming in at $29 with $5 off on the promo code, it just doesn't make sense. By the way guys, you can shop around and save some money. I'm just using Newegg because it gives us a good idea of pricing. This video is not sponsored, but there will be links down in the description below. Let's stick with the stock cooler for now, as while this would be a nice upgrade, it's far from essential. Case is another good area here to look at while we're trying to chip away at each of those parts, and Deepcool's CH360 is a recent case that's really caught my eye. Now you get two pre-installed 140mm fans at the front with a 120mm at the rear, loads of mesh, and it's a fairly compact design. The only thing I've not thought about with this case though though is that the motherboard we opted for is actually too big. So I'm going to remove the motherboard, add that ASRock board back in for an extra $10, as I really wanted to use Deepcool CH360 in this build. Got it in recently for review, really like it. With the motherboard sorted, I'm also going to add in Crucial's P3 Plus. It is on back order, but hopefully shouldn't have to wait too long. This is one of my favorite budget NVMEs, and I'm also going to go ahead and pop in roughly a 650 watt power supply. There's many to change when the GPU goes into play, but for now, 650 I think is going to be about right. Again, I'm going to opt for this MSI unit here. You can see $59, much cheaper than the EVGA counterpart, so that can go straight in too. A quick look at all the parts, and that brings us in at around about $625, giving us about $375 left for the graphics card. Now, what are we going to go for? So we've got a few options. NVIDIA and AMD, under $300, you've got the 4060 and 7600. Other options we could consider include the RX 6700 and 6750, which are increasingly on a bit of a sale. You can see here that we can get a brand new XFX card for $305 with $10 off on the promo code too. Personally though, I'm intrigued to see whether or not we can get a 7700 XT into this build. It's faster than the 6750 XT and provides more performance. Now this is going to come in with the promo code at $389, but the ASRock Challenger card, which we recently picked up, comes in at $379, so a little bit of luck. Oh, beautiful, and we're down to $1,005. Now for a $1,000 price point, this build is quite extraordinary. Yes, there's changes you could make. You could upgrade the motherboard and go for a slightly cheaper case in its place. The 7700 XT from ASRock for me is absolutely fine and a real strong point, and this 650 watt power supply, while not fully modular, is going to do the job. Ryzen 7600 is more than good enough on the CPU front, while Crucial's P3 Plus and 32GB of low latency CL32 memory are perfect. Really is amazing what you can pick up for $1,000. Now, if I was going to jump up to that $1,500 price bracket, where would I go? And again, let's start with the CPU. Intel's 14400 is probably one of the good contenders at this price point. That's coming in with graphics at 229, without graphics at 199, so that's not too bad. Personally though, again, I struggle with recommending Intel's platform right now. The socket is just not going to be supported, and when you've got the 7600X with free 16GB DDR4 memory for $207, I was going to say you can't go too far wrong. Newegg, this is bad. DDR4 memory and a 7600X do not work together. There is no world in which that should be an offer. I don't know if that's a Newegg first party offer or something from another seller. Really, Newegg, not in love with that, and that's something they really should sort out. Let's remove the free gift offer. We don't want the memory. But either way, we've got ourselves a good CPU. Now, we are going to go B650 again, and we want Wi-Fi this time, definitely on the board that we pick. It might be that we add the MSI version at 169, although GeekaWhat's B650 Eagle is a personal favourite of mine. You get 3 M.2 slots, you get PCI Gen 5 support, a better I.O., and it comes in at 159, plus $10 off if you're a Newegg Plus member. So again, let's go ahead and add that. 32 gigs of DDR5 is again the poison I'm going to go for in the memory front. I think that this time I want to go DDR5 and have RGB as well as, you know, the more basic aesthetic we had on the last kit. I really like Team Group's T-Force Delta. Again, tested that in DDR4 and 5 capacities. And in terms of pricing, $106 is pretty competitive if you cast your mind back to that Corsair kit for $109 just a few moments ago. Storage-wise, we can go slightly higher end. The SN770 is one of my personal favorites right now. 2TB for $139 or 1TB for $85. Again, you probably want the 2TB drive, but if we're trying to maximize gaming performance, let's stick with a terabyte for now. It all depends on what you guys already have, and if you've got an SSD right now, you could either use that or add it in for extra storage. There's nothing wrong with that. Before adding in the GPU and the case, the final two components, I'm again going to pick a power supply. It might seem weird to do this now, but picking a good unit at a good price point with the right efficiency and features is much easier while you have the budget to spare. Too often people leave this right to the end and end up with really not particularly great units. The RM750E from Corsair is great at $99, but there are potentially others we can consider. This 80 Plus Bronze 750 from MSI comes in at $84. Preferably though, it would be nice to get one that's PCIe Gen 5 if we can. Now I know Thermaltake Smart BM3 does just that, so this is semi-modular. You only plug in the additional cables that you need, but crucially, look, it's got the 12-pin GPU power cable. Now we don't need that probably for the card that we're going to put in, but it's nice to have. And of course, it makes sure we're getting a better standard of power supply. So add that in at $89, and then we're at a grand total of $620. Case and GPU, the only two parts left to go. Now, as far as PC cases, I'm kind of struggling for some inspiration. I've got my favorites, Montek's King 95, of course, I love that. Corsair's new 2500, like that too. But what is it that you guys are buying? Let's have a look. So we we want an ATX case, I want to spend not really a great deal more than $100 if possible. This Phanteks XT Pro Ultra is really nice, much more simple and basic, but not bad. The Pop Air XL is also nice. The King 95, I am a huge fan of. I'm just not sure I can justify it in this budget, especially when an air cooler would be a nicer upgrade when combined with a cheaper case. Now, Montech have got a recently released new Sky 2 GX, and I wonder if that is yet on Newegg. Again, something we've looked at on the channel. Yes, it is. So this comes in at 89, gives you 340mm fans, and looks fantastic. It's been reviewed very well, and at just $89, I mean, can't go too far wrong. I'm going to take this opportunity to put in a CPU air cooler. Sammer have got one here for 28, but I think, yes, the Deepcool AG400 we can get for 25. Deepcool with their air coolers, they're just legends. I love how affordable and great value for money they are. That gives us around about $750 left for the GPU. And this gives us the opportunity to add a kind of crazy graphics card. Now, the 7900 GRE from AMD is one option. That's going to come in at around about $550, but we've got $750. On the Nvidia side, you've got, I suppose, the RTX 4070 Super is probably their best bet in budget. That's going to come in at around about $599, but I think the better option would be the 7900 XT. You can see here we can get this Sapphire card for just $699, this ASRock card for $689. Now, I'm going to add this to the cart, but I do need to check something before recommending anybody buys it, and that is, of course, the GPU length. So we're at 330mm. The Sky 2 GX may not have as much support as we need, so let's have a look. We've got room for a 360mm rad, support for 11 fans, pretty impressive, and GPUs, what are we saying? Oh, 400mm. I mean, yeah, happy days. So budget-wise, coming in at $1,430. That gives you $70 left for a totally legit copy of Windows, and I don't know, maybe even some sleeve power supply extensions too. I love these ones from Easy DIY Fab. What do you guys think of these three builds? I'll leave affiliate links to all three down below for Amazon and Newegg. Would you like to see me cover any other price points, any other currencies? Let me know in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, and as always, we'll see you in the next one.